before I forget to do that. All right. We'll give Dove is, I think, signing in, so we'll give him just one sec here. But welcome to APM meeting. Yeah, thanks for everyone for joining. I think we had a APM meeting for a short time, and then it kind of fell off, and I'm not really sure why, and then now we're back. So this is the first one. I wanted to, I kind of copied some of this, so I think I wanted to start with some kind of meeting logistics so we can kind of figure out how to make this work best for everyone. And then we can talk a little bit about the rest of the agenda. So the first thing is I just picked this meeting time. This is kind of when the health team has their meeting, I think, every other week. But it's not very good for this team since we're fairly widely distributed. So one thing that, first of all, has everyone met Dove? Maybe I should start there. All right, welcome.
Everyone.
I just wanted to make sure. So one thing that Dove suggested is kind of alternating the meeting times. Here are a couple times that he suggested. I don't know how this works with everyone, so I kind of wanted to get some feedback to see if these times worked. So we could kind of alternate each week, go back and forth. Earlier one, a little bit earlier, a little bit later. Okay. We could certainly just try this and see how it works and change it as we go, but
those times are absolutely perfect for me.
I know they work great for my schedule, but I don't want to be. But we're just a small part of that team, so
right. And if there's earlier, way earlier or way later, that would be better. I can totally get behind that.
All right. So for now, I'll schedule them at these times going forward, repeating. So every week, alternating. Just the next point that I have there is that we'll record all of these. We'll take notes. So your attendance isn't required. I'll try to be at all of them. I think Dove would like to be at all of them. Other than that, if you can't make it, if the times don't work, like other meetings, feel free not to attend, and we'll make sure everything is recorded well. Okay, I'm glad to see Amelia here because I think I forgot to invite you, so I'm very sorry about that. But besides so I just sent it to the APM team alias, which I think covers the front end and back end team, or maybe, oh yeah, okay, Amelia, you are on there, on that list, so that's good. But is there other people that need to be invited that aren't on that list? We probably need to update that list to include Dove on there, because Kenny's on there right now, but okay, good, okay. If it's definitely on the team calendar as well, so everyone can see it, and we'll make sure to post about it. Okay, so then kind of getting into kind of the purpose of this meeting. Now that we got some of those kind of logistic stuff out of the way. So I copied this purpose and agenda from a previous APM meeting, although I can't find exactly which one that was. So basically, we just want to get together as a team, talk about kind of do some planning, talk about any changes in scope or planning. If we have any issues that need attention, bring those up, flag them, but then we don't necessarily talk about all of them in this meeting, but make sure we bring them up and then schedule a time to talk about them. And then if there's anything about process changes or from the team, all of that can be talked about in this meeting. Does that kind of align with what people expected? Okay, good. So then just kind of a outline of just general what we would talk about in meetings would be kind of review the milestone, the planning board. Oh, there's a link to that. Like I said, then go into the issues, review any bugs that we have. If there's questions or comments, we can talk about that. And then the last thing is just a reminder to enter things into our ongoing retrospective, and I can add a link to that too. I thought that might be a good just kind of format to start with to kind of follow along each meeting. Okay, this first meeting is a little bit different because it's our first one, so you got to kind of get everyone on the same page first. So, okay, and then we don't really need to talk about it, but I posted a link here from the health team. They did a little survey to talk about their weekly meetings and how they've been going. So here's the results of that. That's what that issue is there. So we don't have to do the same thing as the health team for sure. We have to do what works best for us, but I think there's some good learnings in there. So I think it's interesting to kind of read through, and then just to kind of keep things in mind as we're kind of kicking off this meeting. The big things that I pulled out of there is that they thought that kind of a 50-minute meeting was good, although they only do that, I think, every other week. So we can, as an APM team, decide what works best. For now, I'll schedule it for an hour, but we definitely don't have, or 50 minutes, but we don't have to take all that time. They wanted to talk more about kind of deep diving into a couple issues, so we could think about that too. But the big thing is don't try to talk through everything. That's kind of the takeaway that I got from their survey. If any of these kind of deep topics kind of make time to talk about those either asynchronously or in a separate meeting. Okay. So now I want to get into some of the kind of planning issues. So right now, maybe Dove, if you want to talk a little bit about kind of this next topic about kind of what's in for 12.3 and what we think we need to move out.
Yeah, so maybe to start with, I inherited most of the issues or all the issues from 12.3, so I didn't change the priorities so much. I just read them through, made sure everyone has been assigned, and made sure that they made sense. I don't think I kicked anything out besides maybe there was like one or two issues that were like, they had like some prerequisite that was not fulfilled. So I moved them either to the backlog or to 12.4. So we need to revisit them. Going forward, and I think something that everyone should know, as you know, we are the APM team. APM in the industry is actually stand from something very specific. I always tell it to the people that I talk with. I think our team is actually more aligned to be called the observability team. And as you may know or may not know, observability, the three core pillars of observability is logs, metrics, and traces. And this is exactly what this team focuses on. So going forward, this is what I want us to be focusing on. And as I'm prioritizing the issues for the next milestones and the next iteration and next release, ideally, I want us to make sure we are gaining progress on all three verticals, on logs, metrics, and APM. And once we'll have like the building blocks for those three, then we can see how we can correlate those together, bringing us everything into the same picture. So as I mentioned, 12.3, not a lot that I changed, but definitely in 12.4, you will see, I think, some heavy issues around logging, around tracing, which I think needs some an extra push. I saw that currently we have we've done a decent progress in metrics with respect for Prometheus. Still have a lot of work to do, but with Jaeger, tracing and logs, not as aligned to how we progress with metrics. So yeah, I mean, we have some topics, we can cover them in this meeting or we can cover them in the next meeting if you want. Open for suggestion. Okay, guess not.
All right. I think the metrics logging tracing idea is what we've been thinking about already. So that's good to call that out. Now that you say it, it does make sense that APM is more of a specific term than that, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So do we want to talk a little more about kind of what's remaining in 12.3 as a next step? Okay. So just for, I can share my screen here. Just for people's reference, I guess. Make sure I share here. So 12.3, each milestone we have to have the engineering work done the 17th is I believe the date we're shooting for. That gives us about 5 more days. So kind of early next week, we want to be wrapped up with any of the engineering work. We still have 30 issues in this 12.3 release that are open. So my goal would be to think about what's not going to get done for 12.3, because then we need to take that into account as we're planning 12.4. So
I think what is not assigned, there are a few issues that are not assigned or probably won't make it.
Yep. So we could probably start with those, or I could move all those. Are there ones that people are working on that they want to bring up?
I had 3 issues.
Yeah. Okay.
I noted I added those to the document, but basically I have 2 feature flag removals that need backend. Because if we merge the front end without the backend, feature from the configure team is gonna break. So I'm waiting for that. And the support for stack column charts, I need a newer Prometheus version so I can run some of the queries needed to show the stack column charts. And we need to move that to either 12.4 or 12.5.
Okay. So the feature flag ones, I can bring these up here. Sorry. Okay. So there. Oh yeah, these. Okay. So there is more back-end work that needs to happen on this.
Yeah, let me get you the merge request. I believe Ryan was working on one of those. Or on both.
Ryan or Adrian, someone was. Yeah. Can't remember. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Is that okay?
One is merch and the other one is the other one seems to need seems to be in the need of a review.
Okay.
So not a whole lot of time before we can work on the front end stuff.
Sure. Okay.
Those both the backend pieces need to be done before either of those can go in, Jose, or is it like a one-to-one mapping for those front end to back end feature flags?
We need both because, well, from what I understand, I'm not sure if Brian can comment on this, but it seems that we're refactoring some of the cluster health metrics backend code. So I think we need both in order for the feature flags to be removed.
Both in order for even one of the feature flags. Okay, so we need
Yeah.
both done. So both of those are actually blocked then, yeah?
One of the backend merge requests is merged. The other one seems to be under review.
I'm sorry, I meant the front end pieces.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And then, did anyone have any more thoughts on those feature flag ones? And then there's also the stack column charts, and that's the one that's waiting on a new version of Prometheus. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I have the issue right here, but I haven't assigned it to anyone because Ben already had a merge request for that, and I'm not sure what happened to that one.
Yeah, I think the merge request for that is up. It was in review last I saw, or maybe in maintainer.
Okay.
I added the...
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I think it was merged recently. Nice.
Okay. Well, that's good. All right. Then Ruben, you had one.
Yeah, that's for automatically adding the webhook to the self-monitoring project. So I haven't been able to start on this, so I'm going to get into 12.3.
Okay. Is the self-monitoring project mostly done though? I keep forgetting the current state of that. Okay.
Yeah, that was done. We had a couple of issues, bugs that were found after it got deployed. So I've linked all of them to the main issue, and most of those are closed. Actually, all of them are closed. No, most of them. One is about to be merged.
Okay, great. So that's instance administration project. That issue is closed. It was here. Okay.
No, I haven't closed that.
Okay. Oh, once that last one is merged. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Next, Raj.
Yeah, so I have one which is adding support for column charts. So I won't be able to get to that. I've been working on 2 other issues, so this would also need to be pushed to the next one next week.
Okay. And then Adrian, you had one?
Yeah, I wanted to mention the anomaly detection MVC issue. So it's kind of a large project, I guess, but there's this issue that says, well, we should try to build out one anomaly alert using Prometheus and see how it works. It's a bit unclear to me what's next for this. The code is done, but it doesn't really provide any value to the user as the issue is written. So I wanted to mention it and see if we could discuss a future direction for this or what to do with it, basically.
Sure.
So one idea we have with Adriel is to see if we can hook some PromQL queries to the current anomaly chart component. The anomaly chart component is in maintainer review, and it should be okay to merge soon, but the PromQL queries will take longer. So this is not something we will have in 12.3 unless we have some direction on the priority for this, because it would be kind of, I think even if we make it in, it would be very rough.
And the idea is to have the anomaly overlaying the graph and the charts that we have that we are getting from Prometheus.
Yeah, well, a first approach would be to define a common metric that has some kind of behavior that is relatively stable over time, and then this could be put into an anomaly chart, so that if we see any big variation, we would see it as an anomaly. But it would not be in the first stage connected to the backend. It's just visible in the front end as a red dot that you see as abnormal. For me, this could be the next step. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion.
Yeah, Miguel and I talked about this during our one-to-one today. It was basically the idea was since we at least have like 2 weeks of data retention, we can use those 2 weeks to kind of form a general idea of what an anomaly would look like and display a chart based on that, just using straight up PromQL queries and passing it, you know, because the backend, I'm not sure if that feature flag is lifted yet, but we're close, if not, right? So we're going to be passing that PromQL response transparently right through to the front end. So we could just use those queries and display, you know, those anomalies. We wouldn't be able to alert on them, of course, because that would have to make it into the database and would take some backend integration, but we could at least display it. And, you know.
So the question behind that is which metric do you want to alert on? Because right now as the issue I mentioned is written, it's using the nginx request rate, and that's a bit unfortunate because you have to enable it on a project that already has requests coming in. If you don't, at some point you're going to generate anomaly alerts of just you visiting the page the first time you enable it, for example. So it's a bit, it's not clear which metric do we want to alert on. So
yeah, it's a good.
Can we give the user the option to choose which one?
If we leave it for, yeah, I mean, if we let the user write those queries, we can. We don't have to put it into common metrics, and we can still expose that component as available for them. I don't, we just have to document it, I guess, and let them know that that option is available. It is kind of, well, it is interesting either way, though, because you have to take into account, like this was a good edge case here, where when you first start up an instance, we're not going to have 2 weeks of reporting to pull from. Yeah. So that is going to have to kind of be built over time. But
the other thing I was wondering about is, so I'm not too familiar with Prometheus yet, but the way I'm doing it right now in the prototype is I'm using recording rules so that the queries, I mean the metrics specifically are already pre-generated. I'm not sure if you can do the same computations using just like a standard query. I would have to check that. I'm not sure.
That'd be helpful to know, certainly, because
I think you can do any query that you can pre-record. You can also run like on the spot.
Okay, that's good to know.
Does that tax the Prometheus server any more heavily? I mean, is setting up recording rules, I imagine, would cache it, right? So that you don't have to, or something like caching.
Yeah, if the query is going to be run very often, then it's recommended that you set up a recording rule.
Yeah.
I think this could be a separate feature, because once the user selects or creates an entry in dashboard YAML, they could set a flag to say, okay, this is pre-recorded or this is not. I think this could be a separate topic.
That's probably true. We could separate that out into its own issue. The question is just whether we negatively impact a Prometheus server if we start doing those type of queries without recording rules in place. I mean, is the load significant enough that we're actually damaging our Prometheus servers by doing that? That part, I guess, would need some exploration and some further investigation. So maybe another issue for that too.
Yeah. It also feels to me like it's a bit ambitious as a feature, anomaly alerts, given the state that we're in currently. Like it's like a big, it's something that you would want, but to me it feels a bit early to want to have that, honestly.
Right. Okay. So I'm not sure what the next steps are. So there's this backend alert that Adrian has the code for. It's ready to be merged, but we're not sure it provides much value to our customers. Is that right so far?
Yep.
Essentially, we don't have a lot of customers to pull from either, though. I mean, that's kind of been we don't have a very huge user base yet using these features.
Okay, so Um,
I guess the question is, I mean, because our goal thus far hasn't even really been on the logging and tracing side of things. We've been very focused on the self-monitor, on the self-monitor side of things. So is this, at what point do we need anomaly alerting? Is this going to be, I don't think it's necessarily getting us to viable. We could probably get there without it, but does it take us to, what point in that process? And that I suppose would be a decision where I'd probably defer to you, Dove, or to Amelia as well. I'm not sure where we want to prioritize that, but we can also pivot as well. I mean, partially we developed the front end out because that looked like it was the next thing that was slated on our prioritization list, which it was. I mean, it was on 12.3 or 12.4 or whatever. But we may need to rethink that now, it sounds like, based on what we've been finding as we've gone to implement it.
Yeah, and as I mean, from experience working at Datadog, we anomaly alert is something we worked on, I think 4 or 5 years down the road from when this company started. So it's to me it feels like something that you would want after you have like the basis right.
Yeah, and usually anomaly detection is when you have decent amount of past data.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in order to detect seasonality, usually it comes like in the form of trees, like 3 days per day, 3 weeks per week, 3 months per month. If you want to, detect like some sort of anomaly, like to forecast something and see, because the idea with anomaly is that once you have this model, then you can detect it once it happens. So it's like for forecasting or in order to see what's going on right now. I need to get better understanding, but for me, I also like, my hunch is that it's still, as you mentioned, Adrian, it's probably not mature yet. I mean, in case of how can we give some value to the customer, but we need further exploration, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the other thing, I mean, maybe then what we do is instead of trying to make it a common metric, we can just expose the front end component so that, self-hosted customers who do have that amount of data. I mean, I imagine the people who are using this are going to be our enterprise customers, and I imagine they have data going back years and years. So maybe that's the point where we start for now, since we have, I mean, the front end is basically there, right? The data visualization piece is already pretty much ready. Correct me if I'm wrong, Miguel. That was my understanding, but I think we're pretty much ready, more or less, right? So, we could at least add it in as an option and not worry about, putting it in our common metrics for now. And then we just have, users who want to make their custom dashboards or version controlled dashboards can utilize it as an option if they have the data to support it, right? And then they can manage their own. I mean, even if we just had it as a feature for self-managed instances, then it's up to them to set up recording rules on their servers, and we don't have to, get into all that right now as far as our own.
Yeah, I like the idea of having the component available, and then if they want to use it, they have to write their own query, because us writing the queries for them is not going to scale anyway. So
cool. All right, we'll focus on that more than on the front end side, just basically making it a feature available. We may need a little help from backend coming up with like a potential query. If you've done some of that, Adrian, maybe you and me and Miguel can kind of put our heads together on just even how to test it. I think that's our biggest thing right now, is testing it with an example query, and then we'll have that component there, and at least it's there for our self-hosted customers.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's
so. Yeah, so let's. I'll share with you what I've done, and we can discuss that. And so for the issue at hand, so I think I'm gonna just close the MR because it doesn't provide any value, and probably, I don't know, close the issue or something, or open another one. But I don't think we're going to deliver something in 12.3 about that.
Okay. Good.
Cool.
Okay, so I'll let you guys kind of plan or talk to each other about the next steps on that. So then moving on, then David, you had
Yeah, so
next one.
in 2783 issue, I did the MR for that, and it's just it's ripping out the weights and the weights and priority metrics for the or the weights and priority key in the YAML file. And I don't know that we've it doesn't seem like that's, I mean, this functionality could be replicated just by changing all the weights and priorities to the same value, right? Instead of, you know, taking all that functionality out and not allowing us to be able to, you know, just to sort based on weights and priority in the dashboard. So I'm willing to, you know, doggedly push to get this thing merged, but I mean, it seems like it was a lot of care and feeding went into putting in this functionality. It didn't take me long to take it out, but I guess the goal is to be able to sort your dashboard by just the order of YAML entries in the file, which again, there's some amount of sorting that'll go on from the front end, and I guess this needs to be in there for the front end to be able to sort them. But if we just changed all the priorities and weights to the same value, then they would come out in that order. So you know, being, you know, a new on the team, I don't want to poo-poo anybody's, you know, vision for how the thing needs to work, but it seems that we're maybe taking out young code that was destined, somebody had a vision for before now. So
You see, I mean, yeah, I mean, the idea was basically that we're trying to make it easy for a user to reconfigure the dashboard from their YAML file. So if they go in and see, oh, I don't like the ordering, you know, just move it around instead of trying to figure out like a proper way to switch priorities around, right? Because I mean, either
but
way,
the weights and, yeah, the weights and priorities is the way that they're sorted now. I mean, it's
right.
based on the weights and priorities. It may not be obvious as to, you know, what comes first, you know, the weight, or I mean the, you know, but and we did want to, and there's some amount of traffic in the issue about having this as configuration or configuration as code, so that you could, you know, commit these things to the make an MR automatically through the GitLab front end to adjustize the ordering. But again, if those keys are still there, and they're all set to the same value, then it'll sort by the order they are in the file.
So it falls back to the ordering if you just set them all the same.
Right. So I mean, again, you know, there's, you know, there's classes and keys and stuff that I've, you know, diligently removed in this MR, but it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any problem with that necessarily. The question I have is, if a user's setting up a dashboard and they don't provide a weight or priority field, is that still okay? It's still considered a valid, like it's okay with that, right? It's not going to error out if you don't have those keys there, right?
But
Or will it?
I can, I don't think it's not going to error out for those guys. It's going to get a nil back from the, you know, from the YAML key, and it'll just sort it by, you know,
By the order.
But that may be the better thing, is to add tests and functionality to make it less, or make it, ensure that it's not brittle in terms of those keys being present in the file. That may be the correct implementation, but leave the sorting available. But
Yeah. Well,
so,
I mean, I know the push for this came from the front end side of things. So if on the back end that makes sense to you,
but
I
there's
say,
the front end side of things. The front end side of things, I think the original push was you want to be able to drag these things around on the front end and then automatically create an MR for the new set of dashboards, which does require, there's some more back-end functionality associated with that.
Yeah, but I mean, the first piece of it was just to basically honor the order so that a user can very easily, if they want to rearrange, they don't have to worry about figuring out like how to use priorities and weights and keys. It seems a little more intuitive for a user to just go in and move a chart up and then they see it happen on the dashboard. That was really the discrepancy. Was you go into commonmetrics.yaml, for instance, and you see them in an order, and then you can rearrange them and nothing happens because it's pulling from priority instead of that ordering. So, I don't have a huge problem if you'd rather leave all that functionality in there, and then, well, we could even pull the keys out of common metrics if we wanted and still leave that functionality there as an option for ordering.
Yeah, if I ensure that it's not brittle in terms of the keys not being available, then that'll leave it there for, in case it becomes something that, in case something we do want to re-enable in the future. So I'll revisit that. That's less than a day's worth of work to get that, to revisit that. So, but it didn't feel, it just absolutely, there was, removing sorting classes and whatnot that somebody had painstakingly and put in the code doesn't seem like.
I just wanted to add here. So in that MR, we are currently removing the sorting logic for even the old way that we used to serve up dashboards. So I think the issue originally was, as Sarah commented, that we wanted to remove the sorting logic only in the new way, the dashboard method. So that's only in the metrics dashboard stages sorter file. Mm-hmm. So actually, we only need to remove that file, and everything else we can keep as is.
Okay. All right.
So that also could be one option.
Okay. I'll make that happen. And then, so the next thing was, where's that? I just assigned myself 11.879, and it looks like it's a beefy one, and there may be some blockers in that issue, but I don't think it's going to make 12.3.
Okay. Okay. So there's, I'll take care of kind of moving those so we can better plan 12.4 going forward. I think we overcommitted a little bit for 12.3, and I think part of that was we overcommitted for 12.2 and then had to pull a bunch of stuff from 12.2 into 12.3. Now we're having that same problem again here. So I'd like to do what we can to break that cycle. And so I think this will help that at least we can be like honest about what's actually going to get done, move that into 12.4 for this case, and then we can better plan going forward. For these that I'm moving, I might ask people to, if they're in progress, just maybe put a comment in there to say, are they, in progress because we just need, to unblock or finish the merge request. Is it something you haven't started yet? That will just might help us plan better too, if we just know kind of what the state of these kind of open ones that were in 12.3 are. I can try to make a guess based on our discussion here, but in case I forget, I might ping people in the MRs or in the issues as I'm adjusting them. Okay.
Matt, are you going to move them to 12.4, or do you want to?
Well, it's a good question.
Put them on the backlog or something.
I don't know. So 12.4 already has way too much, in my opinion, in it.
Agreed.
I mean, there's 50 issues already in there, so that's going to have to be adjusted as well. So things are going to have to move out of there. So I don't know what the best practice, I'm open to suggestions for where they should move. I think what we did in the past is just anything that didn't get done in one milestone, we would just move kind of the top of the next milestone. Though I'm not sure if that still makes sense.
It feels like we might need like a hard prioritization of the list. I'm just in terms of context for the health board, I think they have like 13 issues on it. And we have 30 or 50. So like we might just need to just decide what's most important so we can all focus in on those items. That would be my thought.
Yeah, agreed. Some like refocus would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So for now, I will move them. How about for now, I'll move them to 12.4, and then I can work with Doe or whoever to help prioritize, and Adriel, and we'll try to get the 12.4 board pared down. So as we're doing that, we'll decide if these issues need to go in the backlog, 12.4, 12.5, or kind of further out. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we should shoot for, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 issues per person per release max, and then if we have some space at the end, we can always pick more from future releases. But as a goal, that would be a good number, I think.
That probably aligns with the number that the health team had, Amelia, right? So I like that. And then, yeah, we could maybe, and then at the beginning of the milestone, we can try to assign or have people pick and assign so we know what everyone's working on.
And I wonder how many people are working on features versus bugs. As Adrian said, 2 per person sounds good. But should we also kind of focus on the number of bugs people are picking up so that it's not just features, and then we introduce a huge stack of bugs and then now we're just sitting through bugs?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Yes, I think bugs definitely need to be prioritized alongside of features. I know in 12.4 there was a couple security related bugs that need to get addressed. I think there's a couple higher priority bugs as well. So those definitely will have to do. So maybe it's not, maybe it's, yeah, so maybe 1 or 2 features plus 1 or 2 bugs, something, I don't know. We might have to play with that a little bit going forward, but I think that's a good point that we need to have a balance of new features and bugs and bug fixes. Yeah. Along with that. Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully that balance tilts towards new features as opposed to bugs. Hopefully we're not introducing a lot of bugs. I know that ideally we'll be shipping features or spending most of our time doing that.
Yep, and I know on the back end for 12.3, a number of bugs came up or were related to some of the new features we were working on, and we kind of just closed those out pretty quickly, fixed them. So that's good that we can get to them quickly, but we should also, maybe I can take a pass at looking at 12.3 and how many things kind of came into 12.3 while we were working on it, like after we did the planning. I know there were a handful of those that kind of came in and then we put them right in 12.3 and started working on them right away, which just added to the backlog of things that needed to happen. Okay. So
yeah. Yeah, I had actually one item that I think was missed, but if I'm taking what we said, that is, so basically I need to understand what is definitely in for 12.3 in order to start writing the release post for the blog. And the question is, should I just seeing the links that you mentioned about the issues that will not make it and the rest of them will definitely make it, or do we need to do some drill down on some of the issues, because I want to understand exactly what is 100% in, so I can start writing the release blog. So basically the question is, do we know what is, if I'm taking what we have now and I'm removing the one that, that you put those links in, all of them are definitely in, or do we have some other issues that you are like not 100% confident that will make it?
They
What time
should
do you
all
need to,
have. All right, go ahead.
Thanks. What time do you need to publish the blog post? What time do you need to push the contents for the blog post?
So I'm starting to write that next week, beginning of next week. It's my first time, so I don't know. I want, it's okay if if not. So first of all, not everything need to be in, just the things that we think are most impactful. I just want to make sure for now we like play it safe, and the next one probably be easier.
I think it's like 6 days before the 22nd that it's due or something like that. So it's pretty close, or 5 or 6 business days. I don't remember the exact deadline. Let me I can get a list here for you, Dove, in just a second. I'm putting the link together for it here.
I think I have one MR which is currently in review, so it'll probably get in, but I can't say with 100% confidence.
Which one is it?
The pod logs bug. I can put the link.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yep. And so there's also a number that have been closed for 12.3. So those, well, I was going to say those are all ones that are done that the work is done for, but I think a number of those, when I remember looking at them closer, were closed because they were either duplicates or we didn't do work for them. So I was going to suggest just looking at the list of all the closed issues.
Yeah, I actually looked at all the closed MRs, not the issues.
Okay.
And the MRs, I saw that they have links, because I started looking at the issues that were closed, and I saw that there are some duplications.
Okay.
But the MRs has links to an issue, and that's how I look at those.
Actually, I think that's pretty much what I was going to give you here. That's probably the most reliable one to look at, is just filtering it out by milestone and by our group APM label.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gives you a sense of what's definitely going to make it in already. If those are closed out, then
okay. So what I'm going to do is next week. So I'm working on Sunday. Okay, in Israel, I work on Sunday. So on Sunday I'll start looking at those. If any of you are working on an MR, an issue that it's going to be, you're like 90% know that it's going to get in, DM me, send me the link, and I'll add it to the release post. Worst thing worse, I can remove it, but you can send me a private Slack message, so when I come back to the office on Sunday, I can start working on those as well.
Okay, great. We're kind of at time. I hope this meeting was useful to people. I think as we get more into the routine, it will become, and we kind of catch up. I think we have a kind of a backlog of items to discuss. We talked about a number of them here. So as we kind of get through that, I think these meetings will kind of get into a good routine, and I'm kind of excited about that. So,
yeah, Matt, thanks for arranging this. I think
yeah,
was
Sorry, is
very
that kind of
valuable.
a-
At least for me, it was very valuable.
Okay, good. I'm glad. And I'll go ahead and take, there's some action items that I'm going to take care of here, including setting up the recurring meetings going forward. So look for those on your calendar. Once this meeting is recorded, so I'll upload it and share the link with that as well. Okay, thanks everyone. And I'll
Bye.
talk to you all soon.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.